Hello everybody, welcome back to another light novel review. Today I am talking about volume number 2 in Ryo Shirakome's light novel series Arifureta, From Commonplace to World's Strongest. This one published by J Novel Club, only available in ebook format currently, although this is one of the series that 7 Seas has made a deal with J Novel Club and they will be releasing Arifureta in physical format, I believe starting early next year. So in this volume, Hajime and Yue finally escape from the labyrinth, and of course they have decided that they are going to conquer the rest of the labyrinths so that they can obtain the magic they need to return Hajime to Japan. But as they're traveling, they meet a very cute bunny girl named Shea, or Shia. I'm going to say Shea. Feel free to correct me if you want. Shea has been looking for Hajime and Yue because she can see visions of the future, and she has seen that the two of them save her and her family, who are currently under threat from a number of different things and for a number of different reasons. Hajime, of course, says that he will help them, but only if they give him a little something, and that little something is guidance through the Beastman's Woods to a location that Hajime believes holds an entrance to another labyrinth. The second part of this book, because there's very clearly two parts, this first part dealing with Shea's family and the woods, and then the second part is, of course, going into this new labyrinth. Now, overall, I thought that this book, tonally wise, was a little bit more even than volume number 1. Of course, volume number 1 involved world building. It involved taking this nice otaku kid and making him a hardcore killer monster. So there was like a lot of bumps in the road in that where you're kind of like, whoa, this has become that kind of series. With that kind of out of the way now, we have Hajime and Yue, of course. They have a very firm relationship. It's set. The two characters, in terms of the behaviors, are fairly set. So we don't have that kind of weird shifts in terms of character development or, sudden swings from one thing to another. In fact, on this book, I would say that Shea is now the character that we have character development for this volume, and her development seems a lot more normal and a lot more gradual as a character. Now, I will say that I thought this book worked a lot better once we got to the dungeon. The first part of the book really emphasized just how much of a dick Hajime has become, and how he has become pretty desensitized to how people behave and what people are doing, and he just takes things way too far. And I found that initially I really didn't like the character very much. He seemed even harder than what he had been come the end of the labyrinth in volume number 1. He seemed, and I mean, we could chalk this up to, okay, this is the first interaction I've had with society since I came out of that place, so maybe there's that. But that said, once we move beyond that and we get into the labyrinth, and it is just these three characters, Hajime, Yue, and Shea, things get a lot better for this book. There is a lot better. It seems to me like when you're dealing with a small group dynamic in this series, it works a lot better. And I think part of the reason, too, is because Yue and Hajime, of course, are fairly cold. They are characters that are driven. They are characters that really have no qualms about stepping on and killing and destroying anyone or anything that stands in their way. And Shea, on the other hand, is this very emotional, blubbering, full of joy and optimism that to the point of being ridiculous She is this character that is so emotional. She's the complete reverse of these two. And I kind of think that when we get into the book where the three of them are starting to have a bit more of a dynamic between them, that she occupies that role of trying to be the heart of this group. She is the one that, in the same way that Yue Hajime sort of says she was the one that made him retain some of his humanity because he fell in love with her and because she was there by him and supported him. Because of that, he attributes the fact that he is still somewhat of a human being to her. I kind of get the sense reading the book and in the way that their dynamic works that Yue and Hajime are able to experience emotions and such because they have a character who is so emotional as part of their group. So initially you may find Shea a bit annoying. I mean, certainly she is that type of an archetype of the whiny, really over-emotional girl, kind of bubble-headed girl. But she has some really good parts in the book. And I think she helps to be a nice sort of balance to the other two very, gloomy, almost, characters. The other thing that I really liked about this book was just how different and unique this labyrinth was in this book in comparison to the one in the first one. I kind of feared when we heard that we were going to have to conquer 7 labyrinths. I was kind of afraid that this was going to be nothing but monster killing, basically, for all of these labyrinths. I kind of wondered just how mechanically these labyrinths would differ from each other enough that it would make it interesting. And if this book is anything to go by, then we're in for some good stuff. Because the labyrinth in this one was much, much different than the labyrinth in the first one. And in fact, because it wasn't just monsters, it presented challenges to Hajime and Yue, who are, of course, ridiculously OP. So how do you challenge those characters? How do you make what they're doing interesting? Well, this book actually found some solutions to that, and it was a lot better for it. I felt like once we kind of hit that labyrinth, the book really got good. And I actually had fun reading the book, and I didn't find that I had some hate on for Hajime as a character. He actually kind of mellowed out a little bit, which was really, really good. And like I said, having a smaller dynamic with just these 3 characters seemed to work a lot better than when they were surrounded by all of these other people that were pretty dependent on them. So overall, Arifureta Volume number 2, I thought that it was a pretty decent volume. It felt a little smoother in terms of the writing than Volume number 1. The first part of it, though, I found I was not a big fan of Hajime. Sometimes he just went the whole, I'm dark and everything else just went a little too far. But that seemed to sort of even itself out and become a lot more palatable when we got into the second part of the book. Again, the labyrinth was fun. There was good interactions between our characters. There were puzzles that were challenging to them, even though they are ridiculously overpowered. So it really left the book, the book ended for me on a pretty high note and made me really think that this could be a good series going even further forward. I know I was a little on the bit on the fence after the first volume, but this one, it left me in a good spot thinking you know what? I think this could be an okay series going forward. It really is like a macho wish fulfillment type isekai. I mean, we have a character who is a badass and doesn't need anybody except his hot lolly girl that he gets to have sex with, and he uses ridiculous weapons ridiculous, over the top ridiculous. We're not just talking oh, look at me, I invented a gun. No, sniper rifles, rocket launchers. It goes on. It really is. This is the macho version of In Another World with my smartphone. Like, no, it's even worse than that. And even though it is that, like I said, it still managed to sort of find a good groove for the last half of the book, and particularly by the end of the book, which made me think, you know what? I think this could be okay. I still like the premise. I'm still on board for this whole, like, let's get strong enough that we actually have to fight gods in order to get back home. I think that's kind of cool, and I'm hoping that this series pulls it off, and I'm hoping that future volumes won't have quite the rocky start now that we've found sort of a nice groove, I think, with these characters by the end of this second volume. So those are my thoughts on volume number 2 of Arifureta. My next review is going to be on volume number 5 of Strike the Blood. Now, I'm going to be really honest, I kind of thought that after I finished this volume, I was going to leave Strike the Blood behind. It hasn't been a series that's really grabbed me a whole lot lately. But then I read that volume 7 is going to reveal Kojo's lost memory, which is probably the plot point that I've been most interested in this series. So I thought, you know what, I better get off my butt and get caught up, because volume 6 is already out. And in fact, volume 7 is coming out in September. So I got to get caught up. So volume number 5, Strike the Blood, will be my next review. So if you're brand new to the channel and you love light novels, don't forget to subscribe so you can check out all of my future light novel reviews, including reviews of Arifureta and, of course, my next review of Strike the Blood Volume 5. I really appreciate you all being in this video with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.